Well, Uncle Dan,
Uh-huh.
we some episodes ago had a little spat.
Oh,
Remember that?
we fight so often. Which one are you talking about?
I'll be more specific. That we started this show just digging up gods who are long dead because nobody gives a shit about them anymore.
Right.
And then putting them back in the ground. But after our spat, you convincingly made the argument that is closing a window on so much crazy.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't know what the segment I'm about to do with you is.
Okay.
It's either Graveyard of the Gods,
Okay.
Garden of the Gods,
Yes.
or it's For the Bible Tells Me So, and we don't know which one it is.
Fuck.
You ready for this action?
All right, we'll cut all this out.
This is all of the other gods in the Bible.
I like you.
Because let me tell you something. The Bible does say things like, there's only God. There's
Yes.
only one God.
Yes.
But you know what else it says? There's a fuck ton of gods.
There's a fuck ton of gods.
And it says it, and it says it, and it confirms that they're real in a number of places.
Well, I'll tell you
not just the idea, not just that's the idol that you worship and it's not a real God.
Right.
But that's the idol that you worship and he has power and he's magic just like me, only my God's stronger.
Most famously, I would say, it is stated quite clearly in Commandment the First.
Exactly.
Yes.
Remind us, please.
That I am the Lord thy God, and you shall have no other gods before me.
Right.
Which means there are other gods.
There are all of these other gods. Just put me at the top of the pile.
It is about the ordering of those gods,
Right.
not the lack of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, most famously in the First Commandment,
This
and
is-
explored a little bit in the two following.
It's so amazing to me. This is very clear. Now, there are these ideas. So one could say that the Bible is polytheistic in its in its scope.
I have argued that.
I would say that it is what's called henotheism, which means yes, there are many gods, but that God's the only one that I revere. So
Okay, yeah.
this is a different thing entirely. And if you want a proof, now a lot of Christians will get on my case about this, about there being there's not other gods. They're just other like idols that people worshipped or other gods that
there
people
were phony gods.
phony gods.
But this is the real
But
one.
this one's the real one. Well, let me tell you a little story that happens in. You may remember this from Cecil B. DeMille.
Okay.
Moses is in front of Pharaoh.
Yeah.
He's in his 80s at this point. He's an old man.
Yeah.
But he's in front of Pharaoh.
He looked great.
He was fabulous.
Yeah, he looked great.
He's had that windswept look.
Yeah.
In the robe. It was nice.
Yeah.
It was a good look for him.
Kind of a Tom Skerritt, just a mature, wizened,
Yeah.
but still totally got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Got that deep Charlton Heston voice going.
Is that what
Let
that is?
my people go.
Let my soylent people go.
My people are made of people.
Okay, movies. We can do movies in another segment.
Okay, we'll do that. Yeah. So here's the deal. He, in order to prove to Pharaoh that his God is the best God, he has his brother Aaron throw down his stick. Aaron's got a good stick, really awesome stick.
Yeah.
Stick turns into a snake.
Motherfucker.
Now that's a good trick.
Yeah, it's a great trick.
It's all slithery, whatever.
Sure.
What does Pharaoh do? Has his dudes throw down their sticks, which then also turn into fucking snakes.
All right, so we got Yahweh 1, Osiris 4.
Yeah, you got
Right.
Ra over here,
Yeah.
making stick snakes too.
Right.
Now Yahweh's stick eats the other two sticks, wins the death match, and turns back into a stick.
But that doesn't dispel the other snakes.
There's a problem here.
Yes.
There were other snakes.
Yes.
So you tell me that there's no other gods in the Bible when the snakes come. Well, there was Satan. It was Satan. Okay.
That's another god. But
Ta-da! You've now produced another god in the Bible.
yes.
There are so many other gods.
In an early show, we did a bit on Baal.
There's Baal. Sure, you got Baal.
Baal's a classic. Baal was
Right.
was the Philistine god.
Yeah, you got Adremelech. You got Anemelech.
Molech, I think.
You got Molech.
Yeah.
Ashima. Astarte. That's just the A's.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to, there's so many. Chemosh, Dagon, Dumusid. And I'm just looking at a thing at the article in Wikipedia called Deities in the Hebrew Bible.
Right.
That's just the Old Testament.
Right. Well, and it's also probably just the Pentateuch. It's not the
No, it's the full Tanakh.
the Tanakh. Okay.
So anyway, the point here is the Hebrew God, Yahweh,
Yes.
Elohim is a word that actually usually Elohim encompasses multiple gods. And it's often reinterpreted and reimagined as like the host of heaven or the blah 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 or the whatever. But God continually in the Old Testament plants his damn self in the middle of the gods.
Right. And what is my God is a jealous God? What the fuck does that refer to?
Yeah. Who's he jealous of?
Of whom? If this is the creator of the universe.
Right.
The universe. Now let's talk about the universe for a second.
Okay.
Right. The Hubble telescope. Saw a documentary on the Hubble telescope.
Sure. It's pretty fancy.
Pretty fancy. At one point after they got its eyes fixed, this guy said he had some time on the Hubble telescope. He's like, okay, statistically, computer, tell me what the darkest point of the sky is.
Right.
And found a little point. He said, okay, I'm going to point the Hubble at that.
Right.
Points the Hubble at that. I think there were 10,000 galaxies.
Right.
In the darkest part of the sky we hadn't even looked at yet.
Right.
Okay.
Just for fun.
So this angry God who's throwing elbows at all the other gods, all of that invented the Horsehead Nebula.
Yeah.
All of it. Right? Why did he create all of that? How could he have created all of that if he's just one more guy in the fucking waiting room?
Look, these are Bronze Age dipshits. They didn't even know that there was such a thing as another galaxy. They looked up at stars and thought that they were lights on a dome over us.
They thought they were holes in a dome.
Right. Or lights or whatever. You know, they didn't know what the fuck they were looking at.
If they thought anything, they were stupid.
Of course they didn't know what was going on. Fine. I don't blame you. I wouldn't have known either if I were born back then.
I barely do now.
I don't know anything. We are idiots talking into microphones here.
Yes.
But here's the thing. The clarity with which the Bible talks about other gods is undeniable. I'll go to Deuteronomy that talks about he established the borders of nations according to the number of the sons of the gods. Like we're talking about, I mean, and there are versions of these. So that was actually from the Dead Sea Scrolls. That wasn't actually from I don't think that's from our version of Deuteronomy that we're used to. Right. But look, the versions of the things count.
Of course they do, because many of them used to be part of the canon, and then it was decided they weren't.
Yeah.
Right.
God constantly talked about himself as us. Now, a lot of Christians now will say that's the Trinity.
It's the royal we.
Right. Or it's the hosts of heaven or whatever. But,
right.
You know, he says things like, let us make mankind in our image. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing is constant in the thing. Here's what I was surprised by. There's all of these mentions even in the New Testament of like the gods that are going on around them. And they keep saying, you know, our God's the real one, and Jesus Christ is the better God than the old, you know, he's the Messiah, and right. he's fixed everything. But I didn't realize that, like, at one point, you had, what's his name? Oh, you had,
one of the
it was
apostles.
Paul. Was it Paul?
Probably he was a dickbag.
Go in and was preaching to a bunch of people, and they mistook him. They said, "Oh, look, you're Jupiter," or depending on the translation, you're Zeus.
Right.
And they actually mistook him for that god, and the guy that he was with, they mistook for Hermes and or Mercury, depending on who you're talking about. Like
that's a great way to get a good table, though.
Sure,
being mistaken for the father of the gods.
Yeah, and then they ended up getting stoned by the Jews. It was all very weird.
Oof, that evening went sideways.
Yeah, it didn't go. Yeah, it doesn't go the way you want it to.
It never does in the Bible.
No. But the point here is that there are constant references to other gods throughout the Bible, and you know, honestly. Here, the story that it tells, and this is the truth, is that what happens with monotheism as it starts rising up in the Middle East, and it was a new concept.
Yeah.
People weren't really doing it. So for
Right.
the longest time, it's just like, it wasn't monotheism.
Right.
It was polytheism, and my God beats your gods.
Yeah.
And then it was, monotheism. Eventually, it evolved to my God is the only God.
Right.
But that had to go through a lot of phases. This henotheism being one of those phases.
Right.
Before it got to there's only this God.
And it only makes sense if your devotion is to the Trinitarian view of God, the typical Christian view of God, or Hebrew view of God, and the powers that be at the time in the Mediterranean, and they were very powerful in their moments, Greece, Rome, Egypt, are all intensely polytheistic.
Yeah.
But
But not just them. All of every tribe that you hear mentioned in the Old Testament, we bump up against the Hittites, the Canaanites, the blah, blah, blah. They all have their own pantheon of gods.
right. So it's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
And thus, that's why, and this is what's so, as much as I think religion is a giant fucking hemorrhoid on humanity that needs to be carefully removed, it is still fascinating to watch the movements of these ideas over time in these places and see, okay, well, in the catacombs where the early Christians hid out to do their thing, Apollo and Jesus are indistinguishable for the first 100 or 200 years. Right. Because they were
there's crossover and the stories get mixed up. So, everybody, if you watched Religulous, then you see Bill Maher pointing out that, all of the stories that we hear about Jesus existed in some form with Horus or some other god. And it was just,
born of a virgin, resurrected, son of the god, son of the sun god.
Yeah, borrowed from this, borrowed from that, overlaid onto this, overlaid onto that. And part of this thing that happened, one of the things that's interesting is when you're a polytheist, like this happens with current Hindus.
Right.
Current Hindus look at Jesus and look at Yahweh, look at the gods of these monotheists and go, okay, that can be another god.
Right.
And there's room. They can make room.
Right.
They can just be like, all right, that's fine. But my God, I like my guy. I pray to Vishnu.
Right.
And whatever,
even among Hindus, they will devote them. They have devotions to different gods.
Right.
Right. They feel a closer affinity. Where do we think the saints came from?
Right.
The Catholic saints.
Right.
It was to relieve the pressure in the early church on the idea of monotheism.
Right.
Well, there's kind of other goddish people.
Yeah. They're close to God.
Yeah.
He's like next to him. So go ahead and pray to this guy. He'll whisper in God's ear. It's fine.
Exactly.
And I think but what's interesting is, so you've got polytheism that can totally accept this other thing. Somebody comes along with a new god and polytheists can go, that's interesting.
Right.
But once monotheism comes along,
it's an all or nothing proposition.
It can't abide anybody else.
Right.
It can't be inclusive.
Right.
And exclusivity kind of feels awesome. Yeah. And I think that's what happened, was that like, I've got the bead on the real truth.
Right.
Nobody else has that.
Right.
You guys are going around accepting all these other gods.
Yeah.
What are you doing? And it suddenly becomes this, I'm in the club, you're not in the club. Yeah, a few of our guys getting tortured over here, so we're going to, triple down on it.
Well, and I also think that becomes incredibly useful politically. And that's, when Constantine decided that the Roman Empire was going to be officially Christian in 3 whatever it was. There's this incredible power. Polytheism is a little bit, if anything, at the by the judgment of the time, is a bit democratic.
Yeah,
it's too noisy a space where if you as emperor, you might have the favor of God X, but you don't have the favor of God Y.
It's hard to control everybody,
right? But if there is a singular God, even as weird as this 3-headed God that came out of that whole thing is,
right?
We'll talk about the Trinity and then not the Trinity another time, but then that's also godhood. That if you have the favor of the God, There's no arguing with that.
Right.
There's no appeal to Athena. There's no appeal to anybody else.
I see that Jupiter is pulling for you, but I've got blah 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 in my corner.
Poseidon.
Right.
Yeah.
So fuck off. Yeah, exactly. If you want to control the masses, narrow those gods down to that one guy and be the only one that he talks to.
Yeah, it's just good business.
It's just
good business.
A better business model.
Yeah.
And it won. It clearly won out.
Against some long odds.
Again, yeah, and some pretty well-established gods.
Oh, yeah.
This god, I mean, it's a different god because you got Allah, you got the your Muslims who claim that it's the same god, but they've got the real line on him.
Right.
You got the Christians who claim that they've got the same God as the Jews, but they've got the real line on him.
Yeah.
You got the Jews who claim to have the old school, like, full-on, wireless connection to their God.
Right. But at the time, you think about Egypt did not fucking look like it was going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. And its belief system. Rome did not look like it was going anywhere.
No, solid as a rock.
But boof, gone. And thank God they're gone because that gives us so much to do in the graveyard of the gods.
Right,
but,
yeah, exactly.
But I think it circling back to where we began the discussion with so many different gods, with literally a noisy cafeteria of gods that is the Bible.
Right.
It's just proof once again, as we have, I think, demonstrated solidly many times on our little show, Christians don't read the Bible.
No.
And they don't really pay attention to, like, wait a minute, what did it just say?
Or when they do read the Bible, they, like, and I remember this from my own youth.
Yeah.
You read a passage that doesn't make sense, and you're in reinterpret mode lightning fast.
Yeah.
You can, I mean,
it's a little panicky.
Here's the thing, kids. It's an amateur move to go to a believer and try and get them with a gotcha.
Right.
Because you can't. You can't win because they will be so quick with their justifications or with their we don't know, but we'll learn in the next life or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Their justification is whatever the fuck their training gets them to.
Right.
Getting them with a gotcha from the Bible isn't going to do it.
No, probably not.
You might stagger them a little bit.
Yeah.
You might ring their bell momentarily.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is that this is just for you guys to know because they're so good.
Yeah.
They're so well fortified, but
they're so good at not reading it. That's the key.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're great at living it, guys.
Oh, well, that's undeniable.
They're great at living it. Just look at the evangelical support for one orange Donald Trump, and you'll see they mean what they say, baby. They walk the talk and talk the walk.
Right. So there you go. The God of the Bible.
Yeah.
Which one?
I like that. That was good. I like it.
There you go.
All right, let's move on.
Let's do it.